first meeting. I am Gabrielle Cosplay, or just Monica, and my favorite poem is going to be Bottles by Sayori.
Hi everybody, Natsuki. My name is Shelby. I'm with Porcelain Cosplay. My favorite poem is Ghost in the Light by Yuri.
Hi, I'm Busky. I go by Tai Tai Cutie Pie. My favorite poem is the one that's all a bunch of letters and numbers. And then
I wrote that one! Oh, these two are so funny.
Hi, I'm Mary. I go by Erica in my day-to-day life, and my favorite poem is also Ghost in the Light.
Hi,
I'm Sayori. I go by Midnight Persona. I go by Midnight Persona normally, and honestly, my favorite poems are anything that Yuri writes.
So we have some pretty exciting things that we have up here for you. Towards the end of our panel, we're going to have some Doki Doki trivia that each one of us is going to ask a question about the game, and we're going to have people raise their hands, and whoever gets the answer right first gets to win some awesome prizes. Like here, I'm giving away a Monica pin. It's official Team Salvato work, and then we also have some awesome pins made by Sayori right here.
Woo! And then we also have on the North Team Salvato merch, we have Yuri Unhinged poster to give away at the end as well. And for anyone who I'm your best girl can have my literature club notebook.
All right, to start off with, who here has seen the MapPat video talking about all of the different, okay, you know what I'm talking about, all of the different things that are hidden underneath the surface for Doki Doki Literature Club. For those of you who haven't seen it, there's a really good video put out by Game Theory, and it talks about all the things that are hidden within the game, pretty much in plain sight. So a lot of the poems that you see, so like this one right here is actually base 64 code, which you can put into a code maker and it shows a different poem. There's also in every single one of the game files, a bunch of different people went in for it and they translated it and it showed a whole entire different game hidden within the surface. Is everyone here familiar with Project Libitina? Nice. So we're gonna get pretty into detail with that. And first I think that we should start out with what we think about Project Libitina and what do we think it's real? Do you think it's going to come out this year? And I'm going to start it off with Yuri.
Personally, I think it's real, and I always like the crazies. So I'm really excited for it. I'm already planning out my Libitina cosplay, and I'm hoping it's pretty similar to this. Otherwise, that's going to be a doozy. I think the biggest hint was already covered by the Game Theorist video. Monica's poem hidden within the files. Basically saying, time to be a hero. I'm paraphrasing, of course, since we're keeping this PG. But 2018, so I am really excited. Gabby and I have actually sat there and talked about it. We said that if by New Year's Eve, it hasn't come out by the stroke of midnight, we're going to send angry emails to Dan Salvato.
I just kind of agree with that. Sorry, I'm nervous. I don't know. I think that Libitina is like the whole game is going to be real, and I feel like it's going to come out a lot sooner than we think. Because I feel like Dan is like Scott Cawthon with Five Nights, where it's, hey, surprise, I just made a new game, how's it going? And nobody gets to really think about it before it just comes out. So I feel like it's going to be a surprise in like maybe the next month or so.
So I'm actually really excited based on the information that we've gotten from the game. One of the things when you bring up the Project Libitina website, all the information that's there is really interesting, and I'm really excited to see how it fits into the game. Basically, when you start with performing experiments on a 3-year-old girl, and then you see how that girl turns out in the future, is going to be really incredible.
And my favorite theory is that Sans and Monica are the same person, and I do have proof. I will bring it up later.
If he ends up just poofing or disappearing, it definitely wasn't me. So I 100% believe in Project Libitina as well. There's so many interesting things that are brought up when you look inside of the different poems. Like there's one that you look into, it's so complicated to decipher it. It pulls up like a really weird distorted image that if you wrap around in like a spear, cube, triangle thing, it shows off your face. That is, people think is either Libitina or is going to be, what's the name of the other girl? Alyssa. And there's also another one that takes you to a link called projectlibitina.com, and it shows a medical transcript. And we actually believe that we can place who is who based off of that letter, and it's just, it's mind-blowing, it's mind-blowing. But also I'm trying to think of another one on here. It's, oh yeah, for Markov. I'm gonna hand this over to Yuri again because she knows exactly.
Well, something that I really am curious about, I absolutely love the game. Like, there's so many things I could go on about it, but one thing that I really want to think about, because I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting for Project Libitina, and you know how when you're waiting for something to come out, you just start going down the rabbit hole. People start coming out with all these weird theories. And of course I'm no different. I just really got lost in the sauce. So I sit here and I kind of wonder, you know, who is who? Who is going to be Libitina? Obviously Yuri. Well, let me go ahead and ask, is there anybody in the audience who thinks that Yuri is not Libitina? Okay, so we're all here.
Okay, so maybe we should start with explaining basically what we as...
Only two people raised their hands that know that.
Yeah, so maybe we should explain exactly what Project Libitina is. So basically, there's a theory that came out that Doki Doki is just a game within another game. That the characters in Doki Doki can't really be contained by Doki Doki Literature Club because they have too much like character inside of them to just being part of a visual novel. So some of the game files in Doki Doki Literature Club, like the character files, can be decoded to give clues that there's a bigger game outside of Doki Doki Literature Club. One of the things that was pointed to is if you look into the character files, like say for Monica, you know, it has base 64 code, which translates into something totally different. So a lot of people, there's a YouTuber called, you know, he's Game Theory, that has kind of decoded a lot of this, and some people on Reddit as well, that has broken down exactly what they think that each of these different things really means. So like Monica said, there's a picture that if you wrap it around a specific shape, it shows the face of a different person, like not a character in the game. So, and then one of the poems, so this poem, I'm sure you guys all remember, that has a lot of it redacted and only a couple of words are shown. If you turn up the saturation on it, you can see that it actually says something. So there's a lot of really crazy things in Doki Doki that points out to something bigger. And the biggest thing that really shows is that one of the character files, I think Yuri's, gives you the projectlibitina.org URL, and you can find out a little bit more information on what Project Libitina is, which is what people think is the next Dance Salvato game, which will have the Doki Doki characters the way that they were supposed to be outside of being in a visual novel.
Yeah, and just to kind of build off of that, Gabby had mentioned Portrait of Markov, which is my less than canon book right here. It's a book that Yuri is reading throughout Doki Doki Literature Club, and some of you may be familiar, but for those who are not, it goes into, very briefly, it goes into the concept of a human experimentation / religious cult camp, which we believe is the premise for the next game that we're all dubbing Project Libitina until Dance Salvato actually comes out with it. So, just as far as character theory, we really kind of just sat and thought about who might be who. Yuri, more or less, there's a lot of strong evidence that she is going to be Libitina. She exhibits a lot of the quirks that are in the case file on the Project Libitina website of the 3-year-old girl whose third eye they're trying to open.
There's a lot of There's a lot of different clues that go on with it too, even stuff that's put on Team Salvato's official shop. Like the poster that we're going to give out today, there shows a picture of the portrait of Markov's eye that's in the background for it, along with blood dripping. And man, we've gotten lost in the sauce looking at this photo quite often. I won't even get into that. We're crazy.
She has over 40 hours of playtime on the game.
60.
60.
What? Again before the panel?
That's no.
Why are you currently online on Steam? Why does it say you're playing Doki Doki?
One of the things that kind of connects that I wanted to be able to reiterate for people that haven't been able to see anything about Project Libitina yet are the connections that tie the game and make it absolutely clear that it is hinting to a new game that I think is going to come out in September, because I think that it's good timing getting ready for Halloween, because it is going to be based on a horror game, and it's also the 1-year anniversary of Doki Doki Literature Club. So the description for the book for Portrait of Markov, it talks about an experimental prison camp. The first time she talks about it, she just says, ooh, I'm visiting my sister and there's people that I can't really trust, and you know, it's a pretty tame description of it. A little bit, it sounds spooky, but it's nothing crazy. But when you go into the second act, it gets a lot more sinister. When you look at the character files, there's an actual diagnosis sheet talking about experiments being performed on a little girl with bloodlust, wanting to have to kill people, which is exactly what Yuri's talking about in the book. Also, going into the second arc, when you're reading with Yuri, when you talk about the book, and you say that, hey, you know, you kind of remind me of the main character, and you remember how like Yuri gets really, really flustered, says, oh no, I'm nothing like her, and she gets kind of like nervous and starts sweating a bit. There's a lot of little hints there, a lot. Dan has also, on his, for the subreddit, he actually did an interview on it where he talked about and answered questions. He avoided a lot of the questions about Project Libitina, but one thing he did say was that everything that has been, that is to be discovered about the game has been discovered, but he refuses to tell us which is right and which is wrong. So that's what we're all here for. And you guys in the audience, feel free to participate in this discussion. It's kind of just all of us debating and picking together what we think is going to happen for this next game.
Yeah, and with that being said, I'm really interested to hear people's theories on who the other characters are. We've tossed some things around based off their personality traits. Monica, we're under the impression pretty strongly that she's going to be the heroine of the story, whether she may be the sister who shows up, like in Yuri's book, Portrait of Markov, the sister who shows up from out of town to visit her other sister living at the religious cult. We tossed around with Natsuki that she might be, because she tends to be the most sane of the girls. Personal opinion, but good job.
Good job, thanks. Read manga, it helps.
But we heard that maybe she might be getting the better lot in life when it comes to Project Libitina because of the fact that she is more sane, but her father is very strict. Maybe she is the cult leader's daughter, perhaps?
So one of the things that gets discussed, I believe, in that poem, the redacted poem, someone is talking about how they stop. There's basically, once you can decipher the entirety of the poem, someone is talking about how they can hear someone screaming in the background, and they sort of talk about it clinically, like they're detached from this person. And I don't know what it actually says. Thanks, Yuri. So one of the things that they talk about is about someone whose name is Alyssa. And this person who's describing Alyssa sounds very detached from her, like she doesn't really have anything to do with her, but she can hear her screaming. So there's a lot of really, you know, telling signs that not only is this going to be a horror game, but it's going to be something that is like cult. You know, they talk about how there are going to be experiments in a religious cult that turns into a human experimentation camp, and it's pretty scary. Once Yuri looks up the true meaning of the poem, she'll read it to us.
Black line, black line, black line. It's coming up though. Okay. So, it goes on to say, irregular heartbeat, heart palpitations, arrhythmia. I search and search, eyes scanning everything I can find on their symptoms. What is this? Shortness of breath, chest pain, dizziness. No. This is all wrong. Alyssa's symptoms are nowhere near this simple. I've seen it twice now. The screams of pain, sickeningly pale skin, vomiting blood. There is no other explanation other than that Renier's information was a complete and utter lie. So there's another character that we haven't quite been introduced to yet, Renier. Perhaps the cult leader? Not entirely certain. This can't all be coincidence. It's not possible. I don't know how much of this Renier is behind, but I do know this. There is something horribly wrong with this family, and I accept the invitation to become a part of it. So from the Game Theorist video, they already kind of made this connection, family, and how I guess, integrated and disturbing it is, almost relates to maybe perhaps a cult. I can hear Alyssa's screams through the walls now, so there's another character that we're very curious about the identity of. Is it one of the girls in the game, or is it a new character altogether? I can hear Alyssa's screams coming through the wall now. I listen helplessly. Renier said that he would be with her shortly. Is he in her room now? Why is she screaming even louder than before? So, there are a lot of different references to characters that we may already know or that we're going to meet soon in Project Libitina. And then also, who is this person who is taking this assessment right here? Game theorists decided it was more of a clinical assessment, so maybe a doctor. I do want to go ahead. I do want to go ahead and take to the audience. Now, who here has any theories on Project Libitina, specifically character theories on who might be who? Has anyone ever thought about it? Raise your hands.
Don't be shy. We don't bite.
Raise your hand if you have no idea what Project Libitina is.
Oh!
All I know is that the best one's going to be Monica.
There's actually a really interesting, there's a whole entire clip. Do you mind pulling it up for me? I have quite a bit of it like in my head, but I know I'm gonna get stuff wrong for it. It's one of the hidden, yes. There's an actual hidden kind of like dialogue script that a lot of people think that it's Monica talking. She goes like, hello, can you hear me? Who are you? I can't see you, but I know you're there. Which is kind of like hinting at that, you know, for her previous poem that she says that she is on the inside, basically in the computer, looking out into the world. And she basically talks about how everyone's having like a weird feeling of deja vu, and everyone's been here before. And she goes, she blames all of this occurrences, everything happening in Doki Doki Literature Club, on the third eye. And she says how like if she can go back, maybe she can warn everybody to prevent everyone else from dying. And it's very weird, and it's very like cryptic and just confusing because it doesn't exactly specify who it is, but it's pretty coherent like that it is Monica, because she also apologizes. Yeah, it's also in her character file, and she apologizes for everything that she's done before. She goes, I'm sorry for, never mind, we won't talk about that. And then she also says that there's someone with a third eye that's responsible for this, and she says it's time to be an effing hero, both of us. And then she goes, 2018, like really just like dramatically, which also again, why else would you say 2018? Doki Doki Literature Club came out in 2017. So here we are, it's pretty late in 2018 and we haven't heard another thing. I wish I could show you guys the video. Is there? No.
Here, I'll go ahead and like give kind of a brief rundown of it so that we can get everybody, up to speed, so you're not sitting here like, are we in I came to a Doki Doki panel, what is this? So throughout the game, it's just a standard visual novel with some less than typical dating sim things happening, right? Okay, so what we ended up finding is that it's actually an ARG. So if you go into the game files on your computer and you click through things, you can find out more information, and it takes you to different cryptic sites. Some of them are just text files of base 64 code to decode, and they give you some more information once you do. Others are a little bit more complex than that, like audio files and visual files that give you a little bit of clues. So as you're going through this, maybe it's your first time playing, let's just say you've never played the game theory video, but for some reason something possessed you to look through the game files. And you start wondering, what is all this? It's not related. One of them is a creepypasta having to do about, it's a horror story, about a girl who is fascinated by murder, so she experiences this case of bloodlust and wants to experience that. So some people went ahead and put together, through clues in the game, clues in the ARG files, and just kind of general discussion in Doki Doki literature groups, that there is a second game. So all the girls' personalities are very complex for a visual novel, especially a dating sim. Usually it's something that's catered to the person who's playing the main character. So you don't really need complex characters for a dating sim. You don't really need them to have things like depression or complex personalities. So what is going on here with the combination of these files and... Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
So while you guys were playing, didn't you kind of feel that the characters were a little bit complex for a dating sim? Show of hands. So we can all agree that there was a lot going on with these characters that were really outside of the standard dating simulator. Most of the time, you go, you find your best waifu, you think she's cute, you give her gifts and you tell her she's cute and then you fall in love, right? So when you're playing Doki Doki, that doesn't really happen, especially in the, by the time you get to the second arc. Like, Sayuri doesn't even exist.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert if you haven't played the game. Sayuri doesn't exist, sorry. Yuri gets a little crazy. Natsuki gets ruder. And then Monica gets more and more obsessive with you as the player character. And by the time you get to the end, you realize Monica isn't in love with the MC, she's in love with you. The person playing the game, not the main character who's actually romancing the characters. So by the time you get to the end, you get this weird feeling of this game doesn't really feel complete with how intense and expressive these characters are.
Tyler said something really interesting. Butsuki said something about Monica's diaries.
There are certain parts in the game, I think it's like when black text boxes appear. That's usually when a file is placed in the Doki Doki folder, and it's basically just Monica's diary, like what's going on in the situation. Like there's a situation.
It's okay.
Perfect timing.
I'm very triggered right now.
But if I can recall some, there's like diary entries of Monica wondering why Yuri cuts herself a lot. Like, does it feel good? I should try it. And then there's another diary entry where she actually cuts herself, and she's like, I want to die, and stuff
It's
like
pretty
that.
messed up, like things that are like hidden right beneath the surface.
And I remember one more is just she said, wait, was it just say in the diary or in the end where she just wanted to make Sayuri depressed and not for her to KYS herself.
This is where I get really, really passionate. A lot of you guys know that I'm a little bit obsessed with Monica. Like, she is my favorite character ever. She talks about a lot of times about how she didn't mean for things to go as far as they did. What happened with Sayuri was actually an accident. She didn't mean for that to happen, and that's why the game gets so incredibly glitched after, because she panics and she's like, I'm gonna delete it, because she cares about you. She doesn't want to traumatize you. Like, she's actually like just as freaked out as you are, and she talks about it. It's crazy, because your first playthrough, you might not even get that. Because you notice at the end of each day, you'll get a little notification that says, you have a special poem, would you like to read it? There are about 20 different poems that you can get, and you'll only get about 3 to 4 of them. And each one's different and random, and that's probably why I played the game more than any human should. But, oh, we got someone raising their hand. Hi, Yuri.
I've played the game in total like 7 times just to see like if I've missed anything. Because I love looking at all the mysteries and things that I can find. Like, I theorize a lot in the game.
Come on, come up here. Join us.
Here we go, we'll meet each other halfway. All right, here, let's go to move a little out of the camera.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so, yeah, like, I've seen a bunch of different poems. I've seen, like, it's like you said, at the end of every day, you see, like, different poems, you get to read them. One of my favorites, actually, would be the one, like, stare at the staff to see a special message. I love you.
It's so cute. You think it's gonna be a jump scare.
I know.
Yeah, it's like stare at this dot, and you like stare at it for like 10 seconds. Like, is something scary gonna come and get me?
Yeah, just please don't hurt me.
Love the scariest emotion of all.
I know. But yeah, like, I've played the game like 7 times, and I'm like, okay, write all this down, what does all this mean? Because I love Doki Doki. I look at like the game theorists, I like watch different kinds of playthroughs, see what everyone else has seen that I haven't seen. It's just a whole mess of like, okay, gotta see everything.
I have a question for you in the audience now too. And
I have a question for you and also the audience too when it comes down to a lot of the characters when it comes to who is the protagonist? Like, do you believe that Monica's the villain? Do you believe that Yuri's the villain? Do you think that there's a villain? Or is everything, like, do you think that the characters are innocent? Or do you guys believe that there is something more sinister going on?
Well, in my personal opinion, I think that it's all like one big jumble of confusion. Monica wanted to get the protagonist to love her, but she didn't want to hurt her friends. I don't think Monica did anything wrong. All the other characters, like say Yuri, she was corrupted and her file was all screwed up and the script was all messed up and like, you know, it wasn't Monica's fault. It's like you said, she didn't want to hurt anyone, she didn't want to traumatize anybody, and it's perfectly okay. But I don't really think there is a villain, just a lot of confusion and just being scared. It's like Monica's been feeling the entire game. She just like, she wants MC to love her, but she doesn't want to hurt her friends. She's like, what do? I have to fix this. It's all just one thing.
what do you think, Lynn?
So like kind of go back to the Project Blue routine that like I think there is a villain, but they have a change of heart because then you got this person with the third eye, the fullest, that goes and like kills and stuff. And then the person like the leader or something, the villain, then they become like really sorry for all they've done and tries to panic and starts trying to fix it.
So I just want to say something really quick since we seem to be getting a lot more people in the room. I'm sure the vast majority of you have played Doki Doki Literature Club, but please, I'm sure you're aware that there are some really dark themes in this game. You know, there's talk about suicide, there's talk about self-harm, depression, anxiety, PTSD, all of those types of things. So I just want to do like a little, FYI disclaimer and just say if you're experiencing any of those things, please make sure you talk to somebody and get the help that you need. And just take everything with a grain of salt that goes on in this panel. We're not trying to freak anybody out, but we do want to talk about some of the thematic elements of Doki Doki Literature Club.
My bad.
Can I add 2 cents?
My bad.
Can I add 2 cents about the hero thing? In my opinion, I actually don't think there's really a hero or a villain. I feel like, as much as everyone says Monica doesn't do anything wrong, I feel like she still did. Like, not to say that she meant to, but if you, like, accidentally cut someone, you still did it. But it's a situation of she may have gotten too far with it, where in the beginning she meant to just try to help, and then it slowly started to get too away from her. And she couldn't stop, like, she couldn't really control stopping herself from trying to do too much, you know? So it's not that she's a villain, but even in my opinion, that kind of like anti-hero of, I want to do this, but I know it's going to be a bad circumstance or a thing that's going to go along with it, so I'll just take that and know that I'm still doing good, even though there are going to be some bad consequences with it. We do have someone up here from the audience. Hey, what's your name?
Well, my name is Leorio. So I know a few things about this game because I was one of the people who kind of dug through the files and tried to figure things out on my own. It is this sort of game where it kind of leads into 100 things, so I'm going to try to not get too convoluted. But just on the note of sort of everything going on, whether or not like Monica is outright a villain or not, one thing that should be mentioned is Dan Salvato actually came out sort of once the fan hype and all the fan theories started coming out, and mentioned that one thing that he didn't want to do was sort of create almost a criticism of this sort of dating sim visual novel genre. So what he created essentially was a game where he had these overly complex characters put into this environment where that sort of thing isn't really acceptable. As mentioned before, it doesn't really suit the needs of this genre. So what you see essentially, both in-game and sort of from a narrative standpoint, is that these characters start out sort of complex, subtle, sort of very well characterized, and then through sort of Monica's meddling, what happens is they get more and more like caricatures, sort of just, oh, Natsuki, she's crazy, and her dad beats her, and blah, blah, blah. You know, as I mentioned, I won't go too much into the thematics, I'm sure most people here have played the game. But if you actually play through the game, you'll notice that more and more, along with just everything going to hell, a lot of the characters get more and more sort of cut out. And that's one thing that Den Salado actually was going for in the game, was making criticism of that aspect of these visual novels. One other thing that's kind of unrelated, and again, I don't want to get too much into like the details here, but on the subject of Monica doing something wrong, if you actually, and this isn't something I came up with on my own, this was something I saw online, but it seems to fit. I played through the game again a few times after reading fan theories, and every scene that if you listen to the soundtrack, there's a lot of piano being played throughout the game, and as anybody who pays attention to Monica closely, which probably you, yeah, absolutely, and Natsuki, of course. But anyways, so any scene that's being sort of played with piano while you're playing through the scene in the game, it's either that Monica will be present in the room or currently meddling with the game system. Piano is a big theme of her character, and throughout the game it mentions like over and over that she is like learning how to play piano. Now, this is another subtle thing that Den Salado put in. That's actually sort of a metaphor for her learning to code the game. So as the game starts out, all of these piano melodies are very, you know, simple, da 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 da, which is when she's sort of glitching things, screwing things up. When she sort of deletes Sayori, it goes wrong, the game starts over. She's basically just chomping her way through the code. And then as the game sort of gets more and more into the meat of things, you'll notice that the piano melodies actually get developed, and those same songs will play with like additional motifs and more complex. This is a metaphor for Monica actually getting better and better at manipulating the game code, and by the end of it, she's got this. So, which if you looked at the sheet music for this song, it's not very simple. It's a difficult song to play on piano. And it's just one interesting thing they did to progress, to show that Monica was sort of playing with these powers that she didn't quite understand, which then ties back into Project Libertina and the whole like theming of the psychic powers there. I'm gonna stop. Yeah, a lot to this game. So.
You said I'm your best girl, right?
Yeah.
Well, this isn't for you or anything, but I guess you can have it.
Thank you so much. That was an absolutely wonderful way to explain that. And I would like to add on to what you said too, and I want to know what you guys think when it comes down to the piano playing, also talking about with Monica learning how to code and how to change things. I believe, and it's interesting because if you listen to all the different themes, kind of what I talked to you about how she messed up with Sayori, that's actually Sayonara, that's the song that plays when everything goes down with Sayori. It's actually this song. It's the same exact notes, it's just messed up, which is interesting. It's just a different tempo. So when you first hear it, you can't tell, but when you replay the game 7 times, you start hearing One other thing that I find really interesting that is pretty similar to his theory on for the piano playing is that I believe that the only time that Monica directly goes into the game is when the text goes into bold, and the rest of the dialogue that the characters have, that's them. It's them, but with their personalities tweaked a bit. But, oh, this is cute, sorry. But going forth with that is that any of the bold text that plays is Monica directly going in, which is why sometimes, like, there's one case where Yuri's talking to you, and then she'll just suddenly just like stop, and then she'll just say something really, really random and bold. That's Monica coming in to make Yuri look crazy before Yuri actually went crazy. Because Monica picked up on hints that like Yuri was a bit unstable, so she started, you know, cranking it up a bit. And then when Yuri starts to become a bit obsessive, if you try to pick Natsuki's route, it's unfortunate you actually can't pick her route. Sorry, because Yuri jumps in and takes over instead, despite of what Monica's trying to do. I actually believe that Yuri was actually going to kill you in the scene where before, you know what happens to Yuri. before that happens for it, because all of her laughs and everything that she's saying to you, she literally says, sorry, this is kind of descriptive and gross, but she says that she wants to cut you open and go inside of you, which is pretty gross. And then she says that none of it's in bold, and she's like getting ready to like talk to you, and she asks you for her confession. She starts laughing normally, and then the last ha 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 is the only bold one, and then we see what happens, and then the game breaks further than it ever has before, where she can't even send you back home or send you into the next day. You get stuck. It's almost like the game freezes, because I believe that like Monica panicked, because that's when the music, like what he was talking about, the music completely stops them. It becomes silent and all you hear is deep breathing, and I think it's because Monica was just like, oh, she did everything she could because she was going to save you. And that's also why I think that the picture of Yuri unhinged is so important, because it's the exact same scene before she passes, but instead she's holding the knife confidently, and if you look at it, there's blood on the ground. That's MC. That's what I think. I think she was trying to stop you from Yuri, and that's why I think Yuri is opening her third eye for Project Libitina.
So just to follow up, I'm sure, we've said the phrase third eye a few times, and that's actually covered in the game a couple of times as well in several poems. One of the poems that does cover it is the Base 64 poem that Natsuki gives you, and I'm going to read the translation for that. It's even called Open Your Third Eye, and it goes, I can feel the tenderness of her skin through the knife as if it were an extension of my sense of touch. My body nearly convulses. There's something incredibly faint deep down that screams to resist this uncontrollable pleasure, and I can already tell that I'm being pushed over the edge. I can't stop myself. So basically what we believe and what the theories online say that the third eye is basically opening your uncontrollable urge to murder people and hurt people. And we think that the person in the game who has the third eye is Yuri.
And bring it up to
And some of the things that really point to this is her Portrait of Markov book has an eye on the front. This poster of her, this poster of her has the third eye on the side of the poster, where it says please help me, and it's in blood and everything. And even on the Project Libitina website, it talks about how here's the third eye and here's her ability to cope with it. It's 100% able to use it, 0% able to control it. So that's another thing that we really think points to Yuri being the titular Libitina.
One thing I want to say, just a little bit off topic, just like we had a few people come up here, if at any point you have something that is interesting that you think can add, we want you to be a part of this. So please feel free to come up here. If you're a bit shy, raise your hand, one of us will see you and we'll come back to you. Because this is something we want to be like a big group discussion too.
And last adding on to, I know you were saying that with Monica, a lot of it was an accident, or she didn't feel like she didn't mean to. My only, fight back is that in some areas of what Monica says, it feels like, and most of it she doesn't mean to it, but in some points, it gets so far away from her that she kind of spitefully does something. Because even when Sayori happened, she's like, oh, you left her hanging. And it's kind of like, wait, why would you say that? And of course, that's kind of your hint to go check things out. But that's kind of a spiteful thing to say, if you're really close to someone, or if it's like in certain moments where she's like, okay, you know what, whatever, I don't care. This is what's gonna happen now. It's like, it got so far from her that she's like, I can't deal with this anymore. So now she's slightly doing something spitefully, and some of it is still not meaning to.
I actually think that Monica did do a lot wrong, but I think that she deserves to be forgiven. Because she talks about it too, about how she detaches herself from the characters when she becomes more self-aware. Because you gotta think, when it comes down to Monica, she has been playing this game, she has been going through this scenario millions and millions of times. Every single person that plays this game has the same thing happen. Everyone chooses someone that isn't her. Everyone says the same dialogue. She's the only person with independent thought. So she began to disassociate herself with them, which also, in a sense, kind of makes us the villain too, because we play this game, we know what's going to happen. We go into it, we know that Sayori's going to get hurt. We know that Yuri's going to get hurt. We know that Natsuki's going to get hurt. And Monica says that. She goes, it was only partially your fault. Like, Monica says pretty messed up things, and it's because it's almost like a coping mechanism for her, which isn't a right thing to do, but it's what she did and why I think she did it and why she has regret in the end. Because she's like, well, when I first got into the game, I was having fun. I was friends with these girls. I do care about them. Because she's lonely, you know? Come on, she's a good girl.
So while you guys were playing, when you get to the part where Monica does her pose, how did you guys sit there for a while with her and listen to her talk to you? Raise your hand. Who sat there with her for a while? Who kept her company? So do you guys remember any of the things that she said? Some of the crazy things that she says?
Talk about Smash Bros.
That's about Smash Bros. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I add, who freaked out when she named your computer or your actual files? And you were like, how do you know that? Like, my husband nearly fell out of his chair because none of us knew because it wasn't his name, it was the name of his computer. But he nearly fell out, and we were like, what's wrong? And he's like, why does she know my computer name? Why did she do this?
Or like if you're streaming, who plays while streaming? Yeah. Does anyone know what she does if you play while streaming? Okay, so if you play while you're streaming, she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. There's so many people watching me. And then she does this horrific jump scare where her face cracks and it's super scary.
She mentioned Steam at one point.
Yeah, and she knows how you're playing the game. It's really, really cool. Did you have a question?
She did YouTube.
She did YouTube as well?
Yeah, because someone was doing it and she's like, oh no.
Do you want me to come over to you? I got you.
Like YouTube, like, she'll say, oh, tell your subscribers to subscribe or I'll just end you. And I'm like, yo, how do you know?
That's so cute.
She knows whether you're recording or streaming.
Yeah.
She knows whether you're recording or streaming.
See, isn't that like so crazy? That tripped me out. Who went into the game totally blind and didn't know anything about it?
Lucky.
Oh, that's so lucky.
I'm so sorry. That's you.
I'm sorry, by the way, but I also envy you.
That messed me up.
So I kind of went blind, but my friend was like, hey, we should play this game. It looks really fun. Let's play this game. I was like, why are you suggesting a dating sim unless there's something wrong with it? Because you don't play these games.
Oh wait, you were saying something?
We have someone, a gentleman.
Oh no, you're fine. Right over here. I'll come. Look.
All right. So, like, I kind of went in blind. My ex-girlfriend was like, hey, you should play this game. And I was like, I don't trust you. So I started playing, and I was like, and then I was like, the first time I trouble, I was like, fuck that, and I was out. But my friend, and this is why I'm a terrible friend, my friend started playing it, and he hopped in our Discord at like 12 a.m., like midnight. He was like, hey guys, what's up? I just found this like new free game, Doki something. Have you guys ever heard of it? And we were all just like, no? I've never heard of that one. So yeah, we just let him play it. I got a text at like 3 or 4 a.m. just like, you're an asshole.
I think the best part is when it happens to you, then you feel the need to continue it on when someone's like, I know what that is. And then a friend's like, hey, what's this game? And you're like, it's a great game. You should sit down, you'll love it. And then it just continues a vicious cycle of torture.
It's like the ring.
It's like Madoka Magica.
So.
Okay, so
I know.
you have a beautiful
I actually really want to play it.
Okay, so one time, I just left middle school and I had a friend in 7th grade. And for context, we got laptops to use over the school year. Someone was sneaky, downloaded Steam and downloaded Doki Doki Literature Club and went in blind. And I'm like, let me know what happens after the festival. And literally in the middle of the classroom, they were screaming because they saw a hanging corpse on their tree. And they played it at school. They played it at school. And at lunch, they were just like, B, why are you like this? Why didn't you tell me this was going to happen? And I was like, I did. Just not directly.
I saw Sayori raise her hand as well.
On my way.
So I have a question for you guys. Since Doki Doki is a graphical novel, do you guys think that the game that's going to come after it, what kind of gameplay do you think it's going to be? What kind of game do you think it's going to be? Because the characters are very complicated for a graphical novel. Do you think it'll be like I don't know, like a first person or like something like that?
Knowing Dan's personality, and since he is a jack of all trades, like he holds the world record for Yoshi's Story for speedrun. He makes emojis for Twitch. He also does all of the Smash mods. He did that as well. He's a genius. And I feel like with him knowing his personality, I actually think he is going to do a completely different game style because he likes to try new different things. I think that mainly the characters from Doki Doki are